In this episode, we take you with us into the mysterious hidden kingdom of Bhutan. We begin by encountering Bhutan's unique wildlife, the legendary Takin. From there, we hike towards Cheri Monastery, Bhutan's very first monastic school.
In Thimphu, we visit the giant Buddha Dordenma, hike towards the capital, and wander through its peaceful center.
Crossing the Dochula Pass and its 108 stupas, we drive through wondrous landscapes at the foothills of the Himalayas.
We stop to see adorable grey langur monkeys and meet friendly locals on our way to the Phobjikha Valley. Here we explore the black-necked crane visitor center and the majestic Gangtey Monastery. This is part 1 of our 2-part series on the magical country of Bhutan. We continue after exploring the 7 UNESCO World Heritage Sites of Kathmandu in Nepal.
Beautiful airport, right?
Such a beautiful airport. It's all painted.
You see the sculptures? So we have arrived into the kingdom of Bhutan. It's been a little bit of a long morning getting out here. We've had some quite long delays due to some storms getting out of Nepal. And the weather is still a little bit drizzly and wet here. Apparently they've had some really heavy rainstorms here as well. So we actually passed some flooded rivers and also some landslides, rockfalls on the way. Our first stop here in Thimphu is the Takin Reserve. And the Takin is actually the national animal of Bhutan. I'm already out of breath because we're actually quite high at elevation right now. So we'll go up, we'll go see the Takin itself and learn a little bit more about this national animal. So the legend of this animal goes back to a Buddhist saint known as Phobjikha Valley, who apparently was also known as the divine madman when he created this species. It was said that he consumed a meal of goat and cow, and somehow or other he was able to create this species fusing the two animals together, which I can kind of see a bit of a resemblance of both, and biologically there is a connection to both, I guess. So they are not too distantly related to both of those animals. But they're bizarre creatures. They are vulnerable. You don't see them in many parts of the world, and they don't survive in many places outside of the Himalayas. They require these high mountain ranges to survive, so it's not like an animal you'd see in a regular city zoo around the world. They're endemic only to the Himalaya. We also have some Sambar deer here as well. So there's quite a decent sized herd of them, and they are the largest deer species in Bhutan. We've seen quite a few of those in India, and I think also in Sri Lanka we saw some Sambar deer as well. But it's up against the Takin. They don't seem so hefty, except for some of those big male stags. They're pretty big. What do you think of the Takins?
Oh, they're wonderful.
And the little baby.
The baby.
It's so adorable.
They're such interesting creatures. Like their body reminds me of a hippo,
Yeah.
like a fuzzy hippo, and their face is like, I don't know, a goat or a lamb or something. It's a very interesting creature.
And it's what do you want to tell us about the creature?
Well, it's the national animal of Bhutan, and they live in elevations high up in the Himalayas between 1,000 meters and 4,500 meters. So pretty impressive.
They're also bovine, so they're related to cows, and they're a member of the ungulate two-toed family, so that relates them to goats and antelopes as well. So the Royal Takin Preserve was actually originally a zoo, and it's Motitang it was known as, and the zoo actually was changed into an open space. The animals were set free, essentially, native animals I should specify, in the late 70s by the king, because he believed animals shouldn't be kept in captivity, which is a very, very noble sort of idea and prospect. The problem is, because the Takin and the deer were so tame, they just kept coming back to the same area to be fed. So they ended up making these larger enclosures for them, and they have some sort of freedom there, but at the same time it is an enclosure. And I think with the Bhutanese ethics around animals, I'm sure they're the best looked after animals, and it is to help preserve as well, because they do breed them, and I believe from what I was reading they do release some of them back into the wild too. This is a level of luxury that we're not used to. We're definitely not used to being doted upon. It's kind of interesting to have this guide and driver, and they're holding umbrellas over our heads and opening the doors for us, and we're kind of like rough and ready to go backpackery adventure travelers, but obviously they've gone all out here with this, so it's going to be amazing. And we booked it through Excellent Trek. Excellent Trek. Yeah. That was in Nepal.
I think it's called Excellent Himalaya Trek.
Excellent Himalaya Trek, there you go, that's the one. So we booked the Nepal and the Bhutan package there, and I guess they use a local sort of company that they work with over here, but so far it's been great, and our guide Sonam has been really, really nice and very informative. And already you can notice with the Bhutanese people, they're so friendly, like ridiculously friendly, and their English is all really good, right?
Like on the flight today, we had a middle and an aisle, and someone from Bhutan was sitting in the window seat. And he's like, "Do you want the window seat? I've flown this a million times.
Yeah, you
Please
need
take the
the
window."
views.
And he offered us the window, although we didn't see any views, but it was a very kind gesture.
Yeah, and he was giving us information about Bhutan and all this sort of stuff on the way, and people are really happy and proud of their country and wanting to teach people more and tourists more about it, which is great. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but Bhutan is rated and known as the happiest country on earth. Quite a while ago, one of the kings actually established that rather than monitoring GDP in the country, the gross income, they were going to start measuring happiness levels, and that's been taking off around the world.
How it should be.
Yeah, so we were talking to Sonam about that in the car, and he was kind of talking about all the social programs and things like that. Everyone has free schooling, free medical, everything like that. So the people here are not only living a comfortable enough life, but they're also as well very well educated. So I think that makes all the difference. That's great. Absolutely. We'll talk more about that stuff later. We're going to rest up for this afternoon because tomorrow we've got some hiking and a whole bunch of stuff planned around Thimphu, the capital where we are right now. So we're going to do the Cheri Monastery hike, which was actually the first monastic school in all of Bhutan. So it's a Buddhist monastery from 1627. We're going to get some fresh air out here because we haven't had some fresh air in a while, being in a lot of the cities in India. And we're on the border of what?
Jigme Dorji National Park, and he says in that national park over there's tigers and bears.
Oh my. So we're gonna head up there now, get some fresh air, and look, there's even blue sky. We just read that there's flooding in Nepal, so we saw a fair bit of that heavy rain before we left, and we are so grateful that we have this beautiful weather here amidst the end of the monsoon season. So I'm gonna go check out this beautiful school. So legend has it that this guy up here on this beautifully adorned statue, it was said that this guy had 7 sons, and as a test to see if they were his true sons, he put them in the river down there. Hopefully it wasn't as torrential as it is right now after the flooding. The test was that they would come back to him against the grain of the river. Only 4 came back, which meant that they were his true sons. And those 4 started up the 4 different schools of Buddhist philosophy and teaching. So that's what's represented up here. We're just saying that this forest feels very much like New Zealand, very similar sort of habitat here, this temperate rainforest, similar climate, slightly higher altitude, but we are closer to the equator here, so it only sort of balances out that way, but almost feels a little bit like home. It's so beautiful. Even though the oxygen's low, the air is really fresh as well. So over 60% of Bhutan is protected wilderness area, and over 73% of the country itself is dedicated wilderness area, which is absolutely amazing. So plenty of great forests to explore here if you love the outdoors, and parts of eastern Bhutan are now becoming opened up for tourism, where a lot of that forest, that thick dense forest, is with a lot of rare and endangered animal species. In fact, they say this is one of the most biodiverse places on earth, with all the different types of terrains and climates around here. So great place if you are an animal lover. We've made it. How do you feel, Miranda? accomplished?
Wonderful, yes. Very good training.
So we're just at over 2,800 meters above sea level now, and we started off at about 2,500 or just under, so we've gone just over 300 odd meters of elevation. Although it's not a super challenging hike, it's quite steep, but it's not super challenging. The altitude and the lack of oxygen.
The air is thin.
Yeah, we really need to get used to this right now. So this is why we're doing it. Yeah. And also we're seeing the very first monastic school in all of Bhutan. I think that's pretty cool. Behind us here, we also have the national tree of Bhutan. You can see these big, giant cypress trees up here. So these are the national trees of Bhutan. Let's go check out the monastery. Okay, so we're about to go inside. The original school is the top part up here that was built in the 1600s, and then later in the 19th century, in the 1800s, they have extended all this part down here. And all renovations are actually taken out by prisoners, funnily enough. The belief is that they have committed a sin, and to make penance for those sins, they help rebuild all the important religious sites, this being one of the most important religious pilgrimage sites. So we're going to enter inside now. I can't take any pictures inside, unfortunately, or photos or videos, so I'll take a couple from the outside and I'll report back afterwards. So behind me here we have the footprint of Gyaltse Tenzin Robgye, which is the guy that the legend has it built the tiger's nest. Now when I say footprint, we're talking about like a legendary footprint here. So the legend is that his foot would have stretched all the way up here because he was so gigantic. But we'll learn more about him when we go visit the famous tiger's nest, the most famous tourist site of Bhutan. Behind us here we have Tashi Chezong, which is the royal fortress, and this nowadays is the office of the king. It was built in 1637, and behind us there we have some more of the royal offices, the judiciary court over here. You notice that all of the royal and presidential buildings all have red rooftops, and the green rooftops there represent residential. Now we're going up to the giant Buddha statue we see in the background there. I'm going to do a nice big hike right up on top of the hills here. We're at the giant Buddha statue, the Buddha Dordenma statue here in Thimphu, and it sits at 51.5 meters tall. This statue here has cost $197 million to build. That has been funded through donations from Singapore, which have actually taken quite a long time to come through. Because originally the construction started in 2006 and was supposed to be completed in 2010, and then again in 2015. So it's still being constructed in stages. But the reason why they built this big giant Buddha statue up here, and this is quite funny I find, is because in the 13th century there was a prophecy that there'd be a giant Buddha statue up there. So the prophecy was fulfilled because there was prophecy. The reason why they call it the Dordenma statue is because of the Vajra, or the Dorji in the local Bhutanese language, which is the symbol in front of Buddha up there, if you can see it, which is the symbol of enlightenment. And the interesting thing is we've actually got an event on right now. This is a scripture reading event, and the foundation is the Shogi Dorji Foundation. So it's kind of like an enlightenment foundation, and these people are coming here, they get a free lunch, they get to listen to the scriptures and make their prayers in front of this big beautiful statue. We're going to check out the statue, and then from here we're going to go for a nice hike up into the mountains and get some great views over Thimphu and some great views of the statue. Okay, so we're starting our hike now in Kunsul Podong Nature Park, and we're going to go for a little bit of a hike for about an hour and a half before lunch. The ideas behind the prayer flags is that the mantras or prayers written on the flags will be caught by the wind and pretty much spread throughout the air, so everybody is blessed by that prayer that is in the air. It's pretty cool philosophy. As people that are non-spiritual, Miranda and myself, we totally respect and understand the idea behind the philosophies of these religions. Buddhism is something we can completely relate to just because of the respect for the environment, the respect for animals, the respect for one another. I think it's such a great philosophy. Some people would even argue that it's not a religion, although it is a religion by certain standards and means, especially here in Bhutan. It's everything in life, but it's also a very strong philosophy. And I think even for non-practicing Buddhists, some of the philosophies there are really well worth taking in. And I think that's part of the reason why Bhutan itself is such a country where people are so open and so nice and happy. You know, I was talking yesterday about the happiness, the gross happiness scale that they measure the success of the country on. I think, you know, a lot of it has to do with that core philosophy that they have in those religions, the strong bonds and sense of family and the respect for the outdoors. A lot of people are out here doing hikes. We saw children doing the hikes, and I know a lot of other countries, Western countries as well, will take on some of those philosophies, but it genuinely does make people happier, you know. And we were talking about this before, Saman and myself, our guide, and we're talking about how Western culture is becoming a huge influence here, especially with the internet, with younger people, with social media, and how it's starting to change all of those core principles. You know, social media, I'd be a hypocrite in saying that social media is bad, because obviously, you know, I like to produce my own social media content, but there's good aspects and not so good aspects. And obviously we believe that traveling and knowledge broadens perspectives, and sharing that knowledge, that information, the beauty of these places, the cultures and the histories and all that sort of stuff is one of the positive things that can come out of social media and the internet. But also there's a lot of negative things that are unfortunately separating a lot of core values in places like Bhutan, where, you know, these core values have been held so strong for so long. They're at risk of losing that, you know, like we have lost in many places in the West. So it's kind of like a philosophical dilemma, I guess. Something we were discussing earlier anyway, Mr. Sanama and myself, but something to think about. But yeah, definitely huge difference in the feeling of the people here in Bhutan. We love this place. We'd love to come back here at some point. So I mentioned over the last couple of days we've had some really heavy rain, and as I was saying before, it's actually flooding right now in Nepal, but you can see here the effects of that in Bhutan. Find this one. So landslides everywhere on the road, rockfalls, landslides. We saw a lot of them, roads closed on our way out to the monastery this morning. A little bit of a landslip right here. Alright, so we've made it here to the end of our 6-kilometer hike. Beautiful temple behind me here called Dochula Pass, and now we're going to go get some lunch. How was your hike, Chiki?
It was so good.
Beautiful. So now I've got a local Bhutanese wheat beer to celebrate, and we've got some massive lunch for me. Not so much for Miranda.
It's not because I don't want to explore any food, but
Stomach issues.
I've got stomach issues due to the altitude, so I need to keep it plain. Brat diet.
We were just looking at the handicraft bazaar in the center of Thimphu. It seems to really go on for a long, long time. It's a lot of similar stuff though. A lot of the stuff is bags and scarves and things like that. I don't know if it actually is handcrafted. A lot of the stuff does look the same in every shop, so I assume it's just manufactured stuff. Still pretty interesting to have that in the middle of the town anyway. I say town, but it's technically the capital city, but we were just talking about this before, and it really feels like we're just in like a mountain village somewhere in, I don't know, maybe Switzerland or something like that. It really has almost a European feel, aside from, you know, the obvious style of architecture, which has huge Tibetan and Asian influence, but it really does have the vibe of a nice, beautiful, relaxed alpine, European alpine town. Such a lovely place. So we just ordered some ice cream here in the Clock Tower Square in Thimphu. I ordered a waffle cone. I didn't realize this is what I was getting because I saw other people with the regular waffle cones and I just assumed that's what it was. But anyway, enjoy.
So right now we are at a beautiful viewpoint. You can see the Buddha, the big Buddha that we were at yesterday. And this fortress we're actually going to visit on the way back to Paro. But today we're going to a place called Phobjikha, and we're going via Dochula Pass, which is about 3,140 meters high. So should be fun.
Excellent.
Should get great views.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Woo!
So we've reached the point of the 108 stupas built here in 2005. Now they say on a clear day you can see the Himalayas from here. Looks like a clear day, except on the other side of the pass we've got a whole bunch of cloud there, so you can't really see a lot right now. It might actually clear up a bit. I can see some gaps here and we can see some slight white capped mountains out there, so I guess, you know, if we stick around long enough, not that we're here a long time, we may just see something before we go, but we are going to pass back through here in 2 days. There is a legend about this place that there was an evil demon that haunted this area here, and the people that traveled from Phobjikha to Paro used to always have to confront this demon. It was said that the divine madman, the priest that we spoke about earlier that created the Takin in legend, he actually was the one that slayed the demon, so who knows. Beautiful spot there.
Heading down into Phobjikha, we get our first look at some of the magnificent sights we'll explore in more detail when we return in the next video.
Beautiful little spot outside of Gangtey Valley. That's where we're heading next. Just checking out some of these herbal plants here. We've got them all here, which is used in herbal medicine for the Bhutanese people if you have cuts or whatnot. It's known as atamesha, and it smells quite strong. It's almost like a minty sort of mentholy sort of smell. It's very interesting. Up behind us here, we can see some of these tall flags. We saw some of these yesterday, actually. The tall flags are there to honor the dead. So if somebody passes away in the family, you'll erect one of these flags in their memory. We're gonna go down and check out this bridge here. Such a beautiful landscape. Like, this whole drive so far has been nothing but breathtaking. What an amazing country, Bhutan. Going to finish this all on her own, aren't you? Look at all that food. So much food for two people. It's always so much food. Look at that view outside.
We stopped to watch a family of grey langur monkeys. Native to the Himalayas, these Old World monkeys live between 1,500 and 4,000 meters.
So we're up at the Dochula Pass, which is 3,340 meters above sea level. We're heading down into the Gangtey Valley, and we're staying tonight in a place called Phobjikha. So beautiful spot, nice little stop up here. Big stupa up there to mark where we are. with obviously some religious importance. Here we've got little handicraft stores with garments made of yak fur. About to do the Gangtey Phobjikha Nature Trail, which is about an hour and a half. Apparently the trail is famous because of the roosting black-necked crane, which is the migrating crane that comes down from Tibet. In fact, the crane is so rare and so prized, I would say, here that they actually build all the electrical wires underground just so it doesn't interrupt the flight patterns and flight paths of the crane. Very thoughtful here in Bhutan. Tell us about the little family up here that you've just met.
Well, apparently that's a grandma taking her 2 grandchildren home from school.
Yeah.
Imagine a beautiful walk like this.
Through a valley.
To and from school. Every day.
And you were just saying that most children, they'll walk sometimes hours to and from school on their own.
Yes.
Sometimes without the parents.
Yeah. Sometimes with another friend.
Yeah. And it's just completely safe here, you know. You can do that and there's no problems. The little girl's walking backwards so she can see you around. So good. So apparently their parents are in Australia and they couldn't get the visas for the kids, so the kids are over here and the grandmother's looking after them while they go to school, and the parents are sending the money over from Australia. Honestly, like, as amazing as my home country is, and I love growing up in Australia, like, look at this. It's not a bad place to grow up either, I'd say. This is their house in the valley. That is a magnificent house, and their parents have gone to Melbourne. They're probably living in some little apartment just to earn a higher income. If you go to Australia and you buy yourself a place like that in Melbourne, it's going to cost you like $10 million. It's just, yeah, I suppose it's a different mentality. Everyone wants what they don't have. Peace and serenity versus earning the money. I don't know. These guys seem pretty happy here. We're just in love with this place, aren't we, Chicky? So Mum was just saying that they actually have encounters here because of the wilderness right on their doorstep with wild animals, so leopards and black panthers. They even get bears here as well. So all of the fences here, the old traditional fences, are lined with electric fences. You can see the wires there just in case. And they said in the wintertime all the yak are being herded down from the Himalaya, and when they come down here they're also attacked sometimes by the wild animals as well. So strange to think, you know, leopards and panthers right up in there. We are staying tonight just on the other side of the valley over there. And the cranes I was talking about before, the rare crane species that flies and migrates here from Tibet, they usually roost down here in this valley. And it's usually around mid-October that they'll come down here. They'll fly down south to get away from the Himalayan winter. There is actually a center that we're going to check out tomorrow for the cranes, and apparently there's a couple of injured cranes in there due to the fact that they were injured and attacked by wild dogs. What he was saying that I thought was pretty funny was when the cranes fly in, they do a circle around this big temple up on the hill here and come straight down in when they come, and then when they leave each season, they do the same thing, circle around. He says on average there's usually about 500, give or take, cranes that will come down here and nest for the winter. Oh, it's so stunning. It's just beautiful up here, honestly. We are in awe of the beauty of this place. In fact, Sonan was saying that a lot of the Bhutanese movies are shot in this valley. This is a very, very popular place, not only for films, but a lot of the ladies, he says, come out here and do ladies' getaways and stay up here. They've even got a Six Senses resort up there. Not that many of the Bhutanese people can afford to stay at the Six Senses resort, but it's just a really, really well sought after place to visit. Stunning. Just absolutely stunning. So there's a cow back there that's just stuck in the mud at the moment. We tried to help him out, but we really couldn't get him at all, and the mud is so deep and thick. So we're gonna go up and notify the farmers up there, and hopefully they can get him out. Cheri?
This is a really nice
It's magic.
room with a really nice view.
I like the actual structure of the building too. The building is so nice. Do the tour, the grand tour. It's called Dewatchen the hotel.
Yeah.
The Black-necked Crane Rehabilitation Centre in Phobjikha, and we've got two cranes here that have been injured and they are being rehabilitated back there. One of them was actually attacked by some stray dogs after hitting a power line and collapsing to the ground, so it's unlikely that these will ever be able to be released into the wild, but they are being cared for here, and they do research and conservation efforts as well. You've got two cranes there. They can't actually tell physically the difference between the male and female. There is usually some dimorphism and also some difference in the colouring of males and females with most birds, but with the black-necked cranes they basically look the same. The only major difference is the actual vocal sounds that they make, so that's the only way they can really tell the difference. Okay, we're going to explore the beautiful Phobjikha Monastery that you can see throughout the valley. It sits up on a hilltop. We saw it yesterday on our hike. This is a monastery that belongs to the Nyima monks, so it's a certain sector of Buddhism. I'm going to go inside and check out this beautiful monastery, maybe learn a little bit more about it. So this beautiful monastery here was built in 1613. It did actually sustain some damages during the earthquake in 2015, the same one that affected Nepal. Even though Nepal was the epicenter, they definitely felt some tremors around here, and it did create some damage. The Nyima monks are actually quite a unique type of monk because they are allowed certain freedoms that other monks aren't allowed, such as marrying and having children and things like that. So they do have their own families, and I believe there are 3 major different sects of Buddhism, and this is one of them. So unfortunately we're not allowed to take any photos or videos inside the temple. In fact, inside any monastery or fort in Bhutan, you're not allowed to take any photos or pictures. I think that's pretty standard for most Buddhist temples around the world. But the murals on the inside were so intricate and beautiful, and Mr. Sonam was great at explaining all of the religious relevance and the mythology, even if it was hard to sort of get our Western heads around. It's quite an interesting and complex religion.
Join us in our next episode as we explore Bhutan's best temples, fortresses, and palaces, including a hike to the world-famous Tiger's Nest Monastery, a place even more breathtaking in person than we ever imagined. Hey guys, just a quick message. We really hope you enjoyed this video.
If there's anyone you think would enjoy our videos, please share and help us grow global travel stories. We thank you for your support.